Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Good day. So for today, we will be discussing the Unit 1 or the computer software and hardware for the PC assembly and troubleshooting, or we call it the Pcas 111. So as you all know that you should have a background basically from the computer setups. Majority that we need to tackle is about the computer hardware system or the computer peripheral system. So for the chapter 1, we need to discuss the components of computer system. For the components of computer system, let's start the discussion. So the intended learning outcomes that we need to discuss, or the ILOs, at the end of this lesson, the student is expected to you should know what computer system is, followed by differentiating the computer components of the component system of the computer. It will be followed by enumerating and different types of random access memory. It would be followed by be familiar with the common types of storage drivers and list all the types of the optical media, followed by a knowledge on different ports and cable in the boards. So let's start. Computer system consists of hardware and software components. So, ibig sabihin, may combination ng hardware and software. So, you all know, hardware is the physical equipment. Or we call it yung nahawakan at the same time, majority would be mechanical. While the software components can be differed into two parts. We have the operating system, or we call it the system software. So, it instructs the computer how to operate. So actually, operating system is most powerful software among all application software because we call it the system software. Without the operating system, hindi gagana ang computer. It would not operate. Application software performs different function or program with a specific task. So there are programs that may vary widely depending on the type of information that will be accessed or generated. In short, ang application software, pwedeng multiples na marami yan. Pwede yan yung mga utility programs like yung mga pag nag-format ka, naka-ready na or naka-built-in na during the installation of the operating system. Ano yung mga yan? Sa Windows 10, pag nag-install ka, meron ng Microsoft Edge, okay? Meron ding Microsoft Paint, Notepad, Calculator, we call it utility programs. Pag tinawag naman nating application programs or application software, ito yung mga ini-install nyo na kailangan. If you want to install games, if you want to install Microsoft Office, okay, so nandyan yung Word, nandyan yung Excel, nandyan yung PowerPoint, Access, and other applications na meron pa kay MS Office. We call it application programs. So in the computer hardware, you should be very familiar with the motherboard because the motherboard is main printed circuit board that contains the buses or electrical pathways found in the computer. So actually, if you will be seeing this board, we have the south bridge and we have the north bridge here. The north bridge is here. So here are the heat sink, no? So heat sink is primarily to remove the excess heats that may produce inside the board. So we have the IDE connectors. Actually, this is an old motherboard, no? We are on the generation of majority connector type should be SATA, or we call it the Serial Advanced Technology Attachment, SATA. Now, as you see, the PCI slot, here's the PCI slot, CMOS backup battery, the connector for the peripherals, ito yung pang mga video, audio, and include the web camera, the microphone, and then the headset, or we call it the speakers. And we have the connector part for the USB, we have the Ethernet connector here, then we have the integral parts ng pang-connect ng BGA, then ito yung mga connector ng PS2 ports. Okay, actually may mga PS2 ports pa rin ang board. Pero kung makikita nyo yung ibang mga gaming Okay, mga gaming type of boards. Some of them does not actually have the PS2 ports anymore. And then we have the CPU socket. Dito nilalagay yung processor. Then, after that, ito yung kabitan. Itong mga apat na tuldok na to, diyan kinakabit yung CPU, heatsink, tsaka pan. Okay? Kasi hindi pwedeng walang pan ng CPU dahil once na na-retain niya yung temperature or na regain niya yung temperature na napakainit, the computer or the processor will tell to the motherboard to do a restart. So, papatayin. Okay? Papatayin niya mismo yung board to not to operate unless he will go back to the right temperature. Kaya nga merong mga pan, tsaka meron tayong mga tinatawag na, ano yung tinatawag natin? Siyempre, mga paborito niyong umiilaw, yung mga RGB na pan or exhaust para paglabas ng hangin at paghigop ng hangin. Kasi right ventilation will speed up your computer system. Totoo po yun. No? So, meron tayong 20-pin ATX power connector, meron din 24. Okay, so yung 20 pins, ito yung direkta sa power supply. So, dito nyo kailangan isaksak yun para magkaroon ng kuryente ang board. Then we have the central processing unit or the CPU. So the CPU or the processor will execute the program, which is a sequence of stored of instructions. So millions of instructions has been processed by a processor. So each model of processor has an instruction set to which it executes. So the CPU executes the program by processing each piece of data as directed by the program and the instruction set. So in short, central processing unit is very important. So dito naglalabasan sila Ryzen, okay, sila Intel, tapos yung mga generation ng cores. Okay, dati kasi mga ano lang, Pentium, no? Pentium, tapos Athlon, Intel yung mga yan. Tapos pumasok na syempre yung paborito nyo, yung mga i-series, si i3, si i5, okay, si i7, si i9, so, yung i-series ng Intel. Nga lang, ang problem kasi kay Intel, majority of its processor are no discrete o wala tayong tinatawag na wala siyang graphics cards. Okay, so discrete graphics card required. Ibig sabihin, kailangan mong saksakan na video card in short. Okay, unlike kay Ryzen, kay AMD, ang panahon kasi ni AMD lalo na yung during its 2017 yung mga A-series niya, no? Yung A5, then we have the A6, then we have the A8, okay, mga 7460, meron ng kasama yung processor na built-in graphics card. Okay, so nakasama sa processor. Tapos yung mga Ryzen na may mga Vega 8 tsaka Vega 11 na graphics card na kaya na maglaro ng mga 3D games. Okay, unlike kay Intel, mahirapan si Intel. Okay, so we have what we call the reduced instruction set of computer or we call it the RISC. So architecture use a relatively small set of instructions and RISC chips are designed to execute these instructions very rapidly. So for the complex instruction set computer, we call it the CISC, the architecture use a broad set of instructions resulting in fewer steps for operation. So those are the process of the processors. Kaya nga tatandaan nyo, ano ba ginagawa niyan? May mga OC o tinatawag natin overclocking. Majority of the processors at its function of OC or overclocking. Ano ibig sabihin ng overclocking? Lumalagpas dun sa bandwidth na kaya niyang i-produce. Okay, for example, the overclock of this processor is from 3.2 maximum of 4.2 gigahertz. So kaya niyang i-overclock up to 4.2 gigahertz yung process. Some processors, lalo na yung generation ng 8th gen to 9th generation to 10th generation or even the 11th generation of the processor, this 2021, have the overclocking features. Then we have the MMX, no? So it is a set of multimedia instructions. So it is built into the Intel processors. Enable the microprocessor can handle many common multimedia operations. So actually, ang Macintosh and yung ating Windows operating system that includes the Intel, they already have the what we call this processor built in for the multimedia. Yun nga lang, ginagamit tong mga processor na to for video, sounds, and graphics sa paggawa ng mga animations, games, photography, and even videos. So we have what we call the single core CPU and the dual core CPU. So yung single core CPU, so this will be a one core inside a single CPU chip that handles all the processing capability. Actually, wala na tayong mga single core na CPU. Pati yung mga dual core kasi nga yung kahit sabihin mo yung quad core, yung i3, apat na core yan. Ibig sabihin apat na CPU sa isang chip. Okay, so for example, yung i3, apat na chip is one chip into 4 processors. For example, ang isang core is 3.6 GHz. So it times 4 mo yun. So nasa ano yan? Almost 13 gig. Okay, 13 GHz ang takbo ng processor. So sobra-sobra bilis niya. Lalo na yung i5, 6 na cores yun. And even from i7 up to i9. Even the Ryzen 9, napakabilis ng mga yan. Then we have what we call the most important thing about the central processing unit is ang CPU ba ay latest on its generation. Yun ang pinaka-importanting dapat nyo ring tandaan. Hindi porket i5, kung third gen yan, ako lumang-luma na yan. Ibig sabihin yan, Diyos ko po, paretiro na yan. Okay, so binubuhay lang yan ang mahirap kasi pagdating sa industry. No? Pag kailangan ng computer, masabi lang i5, pero pag sinabing second gen or third gen, Diyos ko po, 2003 pa yan, 2021 na ngayon. So pagpahingahin na natin at higit sa lahat, hindi rin tatagal yan kung sakali. Dahil mape-phase out yung kanyang mga boards and including the RAM. So we have the random access memory or we call it RAM. So it is temporary storage for data and programs that are being accessed by the CPU. Majority of the RAM, for right now, we have dual dynamic RAM or we call it the DDR. So DDR3, DDR4 are still in the market but DDR3 is hard to find in the market right now. Okay, sa Shopee na lang nabibili. Pero yung DDR4 which is commonly used right now, dual dynamic RAM 4, which has a frequency up to 3200. Mabilis yan. Kasi ang DDR3 hanggang 1600 lang. Yung 1600 na yan yung frequency or bilis ng RAM na mag-process. Tsaka ang RAM ngayon may mga heat sink na, no? May mga cover na rito para hindi umiinit. So random access memory would held for its temporary storage. For example, binuksan nyo yung operating system nyo, yung PC nyo. Ang Windows 10 ay kailangan at least actually nga, dapat ang recommended kay Windows 10 is 8 gig na RAM. Pero pinipilit nyo pa rin kahit 2 gig tsaka 4 gig. So pag si Windows 10 ay binuksan nyo, kakainin na yung 2 gig kasi 2 gig ang kain sa RAM niya. Paano yung kain? Yung consume niya in terms of storage. Ibig sabihin, pag nag-open pa kayo ng ibang application doon, babagal na yan. Okay? Because it's only 2 gig. How about for 4 gig? Pwede ka mag-open, yun nga lang, limited. Kasi, hindi natin alam kung ano yung pwede pang ma-open mo dyan na medyo mataas kumain ng storage for the random access memory. Kaya much better if you have Windows 10, you should use at least 8 gig RAM. So there are different types of RAM. Ito yung pinaka-ano natin, no, DRAM, no? Yung dynamic random access memory. No? So ito yung mga nabibili sa industry. Okay? And even in the malls, or even in Shopee, nabibili yan, commonly memory, static random access memory, meron naman tayo yung naka-cache memory, much faster than DRAM, yun nga lang ginagamit ko for servers. Even the fast page mode DRAM, or we call it the FPM memory. So majority of these are being used in the servers. Yun nga lang itong si fast page mode RAM, Pentium system pa to ng 1995, no? Luma na to. Yung extended data output RAM or EDU memory is the memory that overlaps consecutive data accesses. So So this speed up the access time to retrieve data memory. So ang gumagamit na nito, majority would be servers. Ano yung mga servers? Yung mga bangko para sa mas mabilis na process or pasok ng kanilang mga data. Then we have the synchronous DRAM, or we call it the SDRAM. So it is a DRAM or dual random access memory, dynamic random access memory that operates in synchronization, okay, with the memory bus. The memory bus is the data path between the CPU and the main memory. Then we have the double data rate 2, or we call it the DDR2 SD2 RAM. Then it's faster than DDR SDRAM memory. So decreasing noise crosstalk between the signal and wires to avoid delays. So saan din ginagamit to? Majority on the network industry. Ano yung mga network industry na yan? Mga telco. Okay, mga PLDT, yung mga kanilang mga servers, and even from the network. Then we have the RAM boost, or we call it the DRAM, RAM boost DRAM, or DRAM. So it's a memory chip that was developed to communicate at very high rates of speed. So our DRAM chips are not commonly used because it was quite expensive. Okay, tsaka hindi siya compatible dun sa mga saksakan ng RAM na mga board na nabibilis dito sa atin. Then we have the power supply. Sa power supply naman, as you all know, meron tayong mga tinatawag na generic power supply. So the power supply unit is the piece of hardware that used to convert the power provided from the outlet into usable power. So may connector yan sa SATA, may connector yan sa integral parts, okay, mga PCI extension, yung mga 4 pins, okay, meron din 6 pins, we have the Molex pins, tapos yung itong tinatawag natin ATX pin. So ito yung kinoconnect sa board. Then ito yung kinoconnect sa, ito yung 4 pin Molex kung tawagin, no. Ito yung kinoconnect sa mga pan para magkaroon ng supply yung pans. And then we have, of course, the SATA connection. Andyan. Okay, so this, don't worry because it's only a familiarization. Then we have the video card. So the video card is a piece of computer hardware, no, for numerous content. When we're talking about the numerous content of this one is it's all about graphics, okay, transitions of videos, enhancements of we call it the pixels. Kasi ito ang pinaka requirements if you are playing high specs games or even you're using a application that needs a high specification of graphics. So video card. Kaya nga ito minsan mahal pa sa computer. Okay, so ito yung ginagamit ng mga streamer, mga online content developer, they will be buying for this. 1 gig, 2 gig, 4 gig, okay, then we have 6 gig, 8 gig, and so on and so forth. Okay, so napakabilis na yun. Pag nasa 4 gig lang, sapat na. Even the 2 gig can be also be used. At syempre, kung gusto mo may high, it should be 4 gig above. So those are the video cards. It will be followed by the hard drives. We're very familiar with hard drives and including the floppy drives. Ang hard drive, we call it the hard disk drive, or we call it the HDD, is a magnetic storage device that is installed inside the computer. So dito ini-install yung operating system and majority of your application programs. Ano naman yung floppy disk? Yung floppy disk drive naman is a storage device that uses removable 3.5-inch floppy disk. Diskette. Actually, wala na si diskette, no? Wala nang gumagamit niya kasi it's very costly. Di ba? At higit sa lahat is handheld naman siya, nadadala siya, portable siya, but the problem is the size. Okay? So, nung panahon namin, ang diskette is ano lang yata ito, no? 12 MB lang ang pwede mong isave. Pero ngayon, we have the flash drive, gigabytes ang pinag-uusapan. Okay, so yung external hard disk also 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte. Ang daming file ang pwede mo ma-store. Pero yun nga, dahil kagaya ng sabi ko sa inyo, if you want a faster computer, you should switch with a solid state drive, or we call it the SSD. Okay, then we have the CD, CD-ROM, CD na rewritable, CD na readable, then DVD-ROM. So majority of them are commonly being used pa rin hanggang ngayon. because majority of the operating systems can be installed with the use of software applications. Naka-install yan, naka-burn yan saan? Sa CD or DVD. Okay, so kaya kailangan pa rin ng CD and DVD writer. Majority of the laptops meron lagi yan. Okay, yung CD and DVD ROM. And also, if you buy a desktop, meron yan, may kasama yan. Pero pag bubuo ka, hindi kasama yan kasi unti-untiin mo eh. Majority ng case, wala yan. Kailangan mong bumili ng pinaka-optical drive mismo na para ilagay doon sa case. Pero wala na ako nakikita masyadong gumagamit ng CD, yung mga CD optical drive na yan, no? Bihira na. Then we have the flash drive, it's also known as thumb drive. Pag social ka, thumb drive ang tawag. So it is a removable storage device that connects to the universal serial bus port. So ang tawag sa kanya flash drive ay hindi USB kasi ang USB is port. So a flash drive uses a special type of memory that requires no power to maintain the data. So in short, when we are talking about the flash drive, it is a flash memory. Pag sinabing flash memory, mabilis at higit sa lahat, the data is being secured. Yun nga lang, ang mahirap sa flash drive is pag medyo mumurahin, okay, so madaling masira. Nakokorap at higit sa lahat, hindi nababasa. Okay, so hard drives and optical drives are manufactured with different interfaces that are used to connect to the drive to the computers. So to install a storage drive in computer, the connection interface on the drive must be the same as the controller on the motherboard. So here are some common drive interfaces. So ito yung mga yan, no, dapat yung tandaan. Una, meron tayong tinatawag na parallel ATA or PATA. Refers, doon tayo sa pinaka-latest, refers to the parallel version of ATA drive controller interface. Siyempre, yung ating ginagamit ngayon ng mga computer nyo, SATA, refers to the serial version of the ATA drive controller interface. So a SATA interface uses a 7-pin connector. Ito ang makikita nyo sa board nyo, nakakasaksakan, SATA port. Okay, so ang SATA port, kinoconnect sa HDD. Pag kinonect mo yan sa HDD, doon babasahin ang operating system. Para ma-transfer saan? Sa motherboard at para mabigay ni board, ma-process ni processor, ibabato kay monitor screen. Magkakaroon ng output. Makikita nyo si window. So that is how the computer communicates. No? Pero itong nakikita nyo ritong integrated drive electronics or we call it the IDE, matagal na to. 40-pin connector to. Ito yung parang tissue paper, no, na pinakapal sa daming pins. Pang-connect sa hard disk, hard drive. So yan yung may mga gina-jumper na pins. Okay, so actually, dati yan ang pinaka ginagamit kasi wala pang SATA. Okay, then we have the Enhanced Integrated Drive Electronics or we call it the EIDE. So it's also called ATA2, no? So updated version to ng IDE. Kaso yung support sang hard drive larger than 512 MB, mas malaki yan. Kasi dati maliliit lang naman ang file size ng ng mga hard disk. Dati pag may 256 MB ka, okay na eh. Ngayon ang hard disk, di kayo kontento sa 1 terabyte. Okay, so ang pinaka main suggestion dito is yung solid state drive and your backup for the hard disk drive. So ganun ang ginagawa sa mga computers ngayon. So the small computer system interface, or we call it the SCSI. So it is a drive controller interface that can connect up to 15 drives. So it is connected internally and externally. So meron siyang 50 pin, 68 pin, and 80 pin connector. Basically, itong mga to makikita nyo sa saan? Sa mga computers na handheld. Okay, then we have the ports and cables. So you should be very familiar with the ports and cable. No? We have the DB9 or the DB25 bell connector. Yan yung mga serial ports and cables. USB ports and cables. So mga universal serial bus connectors. Then we have the firewire ports and cables. So Itong mga to would be parallel ports, parts, and cables. Then we have the computer standard type DB25, female connector. So printer may use type C, high density 36 pin connector. Okay? Pero majority kasi converted na into a USB connector. Yung kasi ang maganda ngayon sa mga devices. Then, ito yan, they have the SCI ports and cable, DB25 yan, o high density. Networks port cable, we have the RJ45 port or the Ethernet cable kung tawagin. Then we have the PS2 ports connector. Okay, so PS2 ports connector are commonly used during the generation of DDR2 boards. Okay, and DDR3 boards. Actually, DDR4 meron pa rin eh na mga boards na mga ano no generation from creating from 2012 onwards. Then we have the audio ports, yung mga nasa likod ng processor ito no ng nasa likod ng board. So yan yung for camera, for microphone, and of course yung sa speaker. Then we have yung microphone nga, connects to the microphone, line out, connect to the speakers or headphones. Then we have the game port or MIDI, pang joystick naman, if you are a player of it. Okay, for the video ports and connectors, you should be familiar with this. We have the BGA. Yung BGA, yan yung kulay blue na lagi ang kulay. Meron siyang 3 rows and 15 pin female connectors. So, tawag dito analog output to the monitor. Okay, so yan ang commonly used na ginagamit pa rin. Lalo na yung mga hindi naka-HDMI. Ano ba yung HDMI? We call it the High Definition Multimedia Interface. 19-pin connector yan. Yun nga lang, it provide video which is digital and also an audio signals. Ibig sabihin, kasama pati sounds na pag HDMI. Siyempre, ang HDMI mas maganda compared sa VGA. Kasi ang HDMI kaya ang 4K resolutions. Yung 4,000 pixels, napakalinaw. Then we have the components ng RGB. So 3 shielded cable to pero wala na to with RCA jacks and provide analog video signals. Bira na lang gumagamit niyan. Okay, so that's it. I hope you will be having the learning for the components of computer system because it's very important for you to understand every components of computer.